Hi, Annette Lang here. Welcome to my podcast, The History of Personal Training, or at least my experience in it. This podcast will be a combination of my stories. Full disclosure, I might not remember things exactly the way that you did. Now, my stories of 30 plus years in the fitness industry and then specifically personal training. I was at the beginning of a lot of events, the firsts, so to speak, and so I hope you enjoy those stories. In addition, I'll be interviewing lots of different people whom I've met through the years, and I think that will help piece together a wonderful timeline of the development of this profession that we now call personal training. Enjoy. Today's interview is with Karen Kirby. I met her mid-late 90s. We were not really that involved with Equinox Fitness Training Institute anymore, EFTI, and Bob Esqueri was doing consulting around the country, and I would go in and teach workshops. So I went down to where she was working in San Antonio, Texas, and taught some of my workshops and some of the Reebok University workshops that I was teaching at the time. And she became a friend pretty quickly. So anyway, Karen Kirby, enjoy. Hi, this is Annette Lang. Welcome to my podcast, The History of Personal Training, or at least my experience in it. I am so happy today to be talking with Karen Kirby. Karen, what I was thinking was, what if you start from the beginning with, your history of fitness and then personal training, and I'll chime in when we got to know each other?
Perfect.
Okay,
well, I was thinking about this earlier. My very first personal training, I guess, is what you would call, we didn't call it then that.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Right. In 1982, I knew a very progressive, back then, very progressive women's high school basketball coach, and she wanted her girls' team to be weight training. And back then, girls didn't weight train, period. She got special permission from the football coach to be able to use the weights, and we went in there on an off time, and it was like all kind of like, oh wow, we can't believe we're in the boys' weight.
How did you know this person? How did you know her?
She had been my basketball coach.
Okay.
So for that time, she was very progressive because she really believed that a stronger athlete was a better athlete.
Right.
So she wanted her girls to be training. And, it's so funny because back then we put them on just the most traditional, strength training exercises there were, but that's all we knew. And those were my very first clients, and that was in 1982. I didn't start working in the gym scene, like for health clubs, until probably 85.
And that was working in a traditional gym doing what?
Correct. And so back then, I was hired to be what we called fitness instructors. There were personal trainers, there was fitness instructors, and our job, well, I had an undergraduate degree in exercise. Most fitness instructors did not. Because of the pay back then, which was barely minimum wage or barely above minimum wage, it was people that were maybe majoring in that in college, and this was on their off time, or they were just passionate about health or fitness. And our jobs were to walk around and my owner back then, huge customer service person, so we walked around and greeted and handed out towels, and when people joined the gym, they got a kind of a complimentary orientation to the equipment, and that was our job.
So what came next for you?
So from that job, I went to that job. When I got hired as a fitness instructor, there were actually 6 health clubs in that system, that chain, and within about a year I became the manager of all the 6 health clubs' fitness departments. That's what we called them back then, fitness departments. That was our jobs, and I did a lot of hiring and training trainers to be, or fitness instructors back then, to be very friendly, just basically how to use the equipment, how to set the right settings and stuff like that. And we did a lot of like member engagement stuff, little games. If you work out 5 times, you get a t-shirt. It was all about keeping members coming and into their workout programs. And that's all we did back then is focus on member retention, and that was our department. That's what we did.
But that was really progressive back then to focus on that, right?
And that's my owner. I mean, that's our owner back then. He just so believed in customer service, and the people on the floor, which was back then the fitness people, because the membership people, I mean, they were touring and they were in their offices and they were doing a little bit, but the people on the floor were mostly the fitness instructors.
Wow. Because back then that was like in the old days when it was, we don't care about people staying, right? Just sign up more people.
The system I was in.
Right. Awesome. And so then, so what year are we talking about now?
Well, when I'm trying to think of the years that everybody, all the health clubs started switching to, for-fee personal trainers, and kind of can you think of the years? Early 90s.
Okay.
Maybe. And we were hearing, and we were talking earlier about our big national convention that we would go to every year, and it was such a big deal. And we would hear about these clubs that were now, charging for an appointment with an instructor, and they were called personal training and charging, and it was a whole new world for us. But I was listening and researching and thought it was positive, and thought that was the way that our club system should go. My owner didn't agree with me. He felt like that whenever that transition happened, we would get away from customer service and people walking around, and it would be some sort of thing where people walking around, but they were just trying to sell you something, and he was very against that. And so I was very, when we finally got to start our personal training program, I was very aware of we won't do that. That's not what we will be. We will not be salespeople, trying to do that on the floor. We'll be highly trained professionals, and we can really help people, and that's why they will want to hire us. I was researching at the time and really listening to what other clubs were doing. My system was late to the market, I think, which was our advantage because so many people had already tried things. And from that research I was doing and talking to people, one of our mutual friends, Rick Caro, said, you need to talk to Bob Asquari. And that's how I got the number of Bob Asquari. And I remember the first time I talked to him on the phone, because I was a small town Texas accent, and he was a big town New York brazen accent. Right. And he knew everything, and he had an incredible laugh that made me laugh as well. And we got a chance to meet, and I got the chance to watch him work and watch you work, and that's how I met you. And it was a whole new view to me of how to work with people, and that was my beginning of seeing, that people. How do we get people to move like they move in real life? How do we get people to move better, to be healthier, not necessarily train for athletic competition, which kind of the old training, that's kind of what we did. And that wasn't appropriate for all the middle-aged women that were now coming into fitness and just wanted to feel better, or the older people, the baby boomers. It's like, I will not get old. I want a different way to live and to move. And so it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I feel like back in those days at Equinox, and when I first met you, that was like, it was just like, I would just say rockin', it was so cool. And I still see trainers, around New York and at some of the gyms, and we always say like how great that was back then, that environment,
It was such a learning environment back then. Everything was new, and I remember every time I got to see you or watch you train or see you at a workshop, I was so excited to get back and try these things, and the whole business model of that Bob had in mind of the way to set up personal training, and the way and you're not asking me this question, I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. The way I felt like that improved our industry greatly is, until that time, fitness instructors could never make a living doing that. That was not a career path. If we kept people back then, they went into membership sales, or they went into,
management, right?
Some sort of management, some sort of supervisory thing, because there was no pay in it. And when we started the concept of for-fee training, all of a sudden we had people who were hugely qualified and hugely passionate, but could look at it as a career for the first time. And that's when our industry skyrocketed, and that's why we have these people today that, like you, that are just amazing at what they do.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you that about, like, because that's what people would come back to me and say, oh yeah, well, Bob Squary's in New York and that's never going to work here where I live, but it does work, right? Because it's relative to where you are as far as paying and
Well, absolutely.
but the quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I decided to go back into my master's, I did my MBA because at that time I felt like I knew a lot about exercise, but I didn't feel like I knew a lot about the business of personal training, which is what Bob Square was all about. And
I forgot that you did that. That was a good call.
yeah, so the business model was a total. Clubs weren't doing it. I mean, they had the model of measuring, memberships, like how many memberships and what's the unit. Is it a single? Is it a family? Is it a couple? But we didn't know how to measure training. Is it 1 hour session? What about a half hour? What about a group? And we were struggling with all that. And when we set up our system, within 6 months we realized we don't have a software for this. How are we going to measure this? How are we going to set up spreadsheets, and how are we going to compare it? And we had a great IT guy at the time, and we just sat down with him and said, these are the numbers we need to look at, and this is what this, and this is that. And he wrote a program because there wasn't one.
Wow.
And now there's great programs. There's programs everywhere, but that's how new we were to the market. And we were late.
Right.
I mean, my system in San Antonio, Texas, we're generally late to the market compared to New York and the West Coast. And we had to write our own software to try to look at a spreadsheet to try to understand how to measure this thing called business called personal training.
Wow, that's so awesome. So Karen, what are you doing now? What's your job now?
I would call myself an independent personal trainer, maybe an independent movement therapist.
Okay.
I think in this, with my peers, the trend is, and I assume you see the same thing, but I don't know, is that the good trainers, and I would consider myself a great trainer for this area, we move away from the club system because we can't make the money that we need to make, and so we go independent. And so I went independent 14, 15 years ago. I was in, like we talked about, club management for a long time, and my market niche is that I go to people's homes, and so that's a whole different type of training. The majority of people I train are not athletes. The majority of people I train are either just middle-aged, I want to be healthy, and or I'd say that my primary referrals right now come from physical therapists. So there are people who are just had a surgery or whatever reason, they're done with physical therapy, but they're not quite ready to go out and do their own program. So I pick up those exercises, and it's in their homes, and it's just very mostly minimal things, trying to improve their movement patterns and their flexibility or their strength, so they can get back to living their lives. And so I consider myself pretty specialized or niched, whereas when I first was training, I worked with everybody, all kinds of athletes and golfers and tennis players and younger people. And now I think that I charge maybe at the top of the industry. I get specialized clients that have specific health issues, not just let's go get help. Let's go train for tennis or something.
Right. Karen, did you work hard at trying to get those referrals from the physical therapist? Like, was that a distinct effort on your part, or did it sort of come just organically? Like, I could see you pounding the pavement, developing relationships with.
No, I think an incredible advantage is that when I became an independent trainer in this huge city, I had all these contacts because I had been training trainers and being an trainer in the system. So I had the opportunity to know chiropractors and massage therapists and personal trainers and doctors and I had been in the media because I had a little, tiny,
Oh, right.
fitness show on TV, and so I count myself so lucky. So when I started my business, I leveraged relationships, and I was very lucky to get a lot of clients really quickly. Now, then, the depression happened, and like
Right.
independent trainers, I lost half my income in a year, and until people lost their jobs, and so it was a rebuilding time, and that was unique because I think that was harder to rebuild my business than it was when I went on my own, because I had those relationships, and it was a better time economically. So once I lost my business and I had to think about rebuilding and how to, maybe I need to do something different, and who I need to reach out to. For me, that was a harder time to figure it out. But that's what we do as independents.
Right.
I see that when we figure out where is the market, what do they want, what do we need to do next. So we can't just be doing what we've always done, or we'll not get business.
Well, we won't be here. So, Karen, I'll let you go, we can talk more at another time. But I have two questions for you, and I definitely did not send this in advance. What do you think that the average personal trainer should know about the history of their profession? And then what do you think the average person who knows nothing about I feel like so many times I tell people, you have no idea how freaking hard it is to be a personal trainer. Even just like with the communication and the personality types and being in the same room with one person who maybe you don't like that much. So I don't know, do you have something that you could add to those two?
The history of personal training, I think the history is short. We're new. When you look at professions, when you look at major professions, we're still young in this profession, and I think you and I are. I don't know if we're the lucky ones, but we saw when it began. We remember
Definitely.
We remember when the word aerobics. We knew the definition, so we were all. So we have had a chance to see the health and wellness industry start back from the old gym days and athletes to women, to mind body, to yoga, to just being more about better movements and not just strength. So
right, and at the same time, CrossFit, right? Like, it's so interesting.
Yeah, they're going kind of back to that. So the history of personal training, I think new trainers, I hope that they take their profession seriously, that they take safety seriously. That's one of the things I think about when I think about new trainers is, just be safe. But they have such an opportunity to really be a top professional and help so many people. I think about, I guess I sell every day just like you do. I sell my client to invite me back to their house one more time, or to buy one more session. And I could be selling, we could be selling shoes or houses or something. But I'm selling, making people feel better and live longer and have quality of life. And there's nothing better in the world to sell. And I hope, I guess what I want trainers to see is how lucky are we that this is the part we get to play in this world of business, and how cool is that? I mean, how cool is that? What was your second question? Because I got off on the history of personal training.
Well, no, that was brilliant, and I wish people could see your face as you're saying that. You sort of answered it a little bit. What the average Joe Blow walking down the street? People make fun of us sometimes, or don't appreciate personal training. Like, what do you think the average person needs to know about our profession? And I know you answered part of that already.
Well, I still truly believe that there's a lot of I don't know how to say it any other way, a lot of bad trainers out there, and I want trainers everywhere to know what it takes to be a good trainer. And it's 90% people skills. It's 90% people skills. It's still about integrity and running your own business and following up and doing what you said you would do, and staying true to your ethics and your credibility and your passion. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, either way you look at it, so many people that get into this business are in their 20s and they're young and they're healthy and they think it's going to be fun, and they don't really get the nuances of taking care of a person and the behavioral issues and the motivation issues and the care and the time, follow up and constant communication and constant motivation that it takes to be a really great professional. And I want every new client to be a great professional, because we need great professionals, because we want everybody in this world to be healthy.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. All right, well, hopefully I'll talk to you again soon about other topics relating to this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.